Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, you know me. My name is Dr. Keith McNally. This is the Question Guide podcast, and I want to get names right. I always do my best. I'm here with Aura McKay. Did I get that right?
You totally got it right, Keith.
I do appreciate that. Now, most people come on my show, the Question Guy, because they've got a rags to riches story that just transforms and tears the heart out. But I let you on anyway because you don't have that, but you've got a story to tell us anyway. Let's get
Indeed.
into that story. Now, where does this all begin?
So I think it's really important to give people a little bit of an insight into why I feel like I really wanted that rags to riches story, that I really wanted to be able to share with people, oh, I was in the deepest, darkest, terrible time, and I managed to create this amazing transformation, and ta-da, look at where I am. And not so much because of the Disney themes and wanting to be a character out of a movie, but even more so from some of the information that we got in the 90s about, build it and they will come. If you do what you love, you'll never work another day. And the best thing that you can do is transform yourself completely or transform others.
Now, just hold on for a second. I'm going to let you finish your story. Just for those who are watching and listening, you're using references that probably some of our audience are not even close to understanding, and that's okay. Just
Yeah,
know that both me and my guest today are over the age of 50. So
right. These
that's
are
all
all
we're
late 1900s.
that's all we're going to say to that matter. Go ahead and continue.
So thank you for that, for sure, because there does seem to be, well, I carried around this idea that if I didn't follow the same path that the spiritual leaders, the business leaders, the super successful people that I looked up to, if I didn't follow that path, then how was I ever going to be successful?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Role
I
models are everything. Yeah.
Right? And so I almost felt like I needed to self sabotage in a way to get that rags to riches story so that I could follow in the steps of my mentors, which is a very twisted way of looking at the privileges and the blessings that one has in their lives, don't you think?
Well, as soon as you said self-sabotage, I'm thinking something's wrong here.
Right.
Yeah.
And to further that, I grew up with really amazing parents who are kind, intelligent, uh, humane people that really care about me and life and my success. And you would think, oh, well, this is like a brilliant, laboratory for creating an extraordinary human being. It wasn't all blessings and bluebells. I mean, there's divorce, and I grew up in the 70s, so there's all those kinds of things. But the message I got as a child, Keith, was you are extraordinary. You are intelligent and talented and
Mm.
creative, and you can do anything.
Great messages to grow up with, though.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound marvelous?
I envy you.
Except
Oh,
we are all meaning making machines. And what I heard was, uh-oh, I better be extraordinary in life then. Uh-oh, I better do something incredible. Uh-oh, I now carry this burden of being extraordinary. And it may not seem like this is a rags to riches story,
that's a hard thing to own up to. Yeah. Yeah.
but what happens, I think, is that each of us in our own journey, it's it's the meaning that we make about our journey that causes us to have an experience of this is the deepest, darkest hole of my life. Now, the burden of extraordinary isn't that big of a burden.
But you created this image for yourself to say, I
I
need to
did.
live up to it.
Yeah.
And and just using the age thing one more time, we don't realize the error of that ways until way later in life. And yet we spend our energies, time, focus, whatever, money trying to create that image.
which is the very definition for me of a rags to riches story, that someone is stuck in a place of negativity and there's no possibility and there's no real hope and there's an expectation or a burden or something they're not living up to, that there's this sense of not enoughness, failure, and not really living into what you should be doing in life.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the word failure because that does feel like that every step you take forward, you're taking 5 steps back because you can never reach an ideal that you've created for yourself. Yeah.
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 So I started to recognize that, maybe there are other people out there in the world who have pretty good lives, pretty decent childhoods, that are born in countries that are pretty affluent, and there's not a lot of trauma or tragedy going on around us.
Mhm.
I grew up with a lot of that and thought, uh-oh, I can never have this rags to riches story. But if we are all creating our own experience of life by the stories that we tell ourselves,
Mhm.
I, in fact, created a situation that felt impossible for myself. So, what changed?
Well, I've got a couple words over here, but I want to hear your story first.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm curious about your words too. Um,
You used prior to our conversation, you used the phrase the burden, and I'm going to read it, the burden of extraordinary.
yeah,
So you just talked about the backstory to that, but
yeah.
most people are burdened by things they don't have control over. But you created this. So this was kind of part and parcel of something that you did have control over.
Well, I wonder. I wonder. This
Okay.
is a really interesting question. I'm now seeing where you get the question guy name from, because this is a really interesting question for me, because I don't necessarily agree that
Okay.
people are burdened by things that they don't have control over.
Okay. Explain, please.
Hmm. This is going to take us down a whole other conversation here, Keith. So,
This is the question guy. We're good.
one of the things that helped me to embrace extraordinary as anything other than a burden was was this is like taking us all the way around,
We're good.
was looking at complaints and complaining, and looking around at where does complaints and complaining and negativity come from, what is it based on, why do human beings complain so much, do we have any real control over the things that we were complaining about. And this perspective and idea came from someone else. I can't remember their name. They have one. I probably read it in a book. I read a lot of them. But as I was playing with this idea that I was introduced to, what came up for me and what they proposed was we only complain about the things that we actually have the ability to change.
That's an interesting perspective.
Very interesting. So, for instance, we don't really complain about gravity.
I know I don't.
I don't complain about gravity. Maybe people who have like aspirations of flying complain about gravity. But when we look at things, and this is not to minimize trauma or minimize negative experiences or interactions with violence or extreme situations at all.
Right.
Those are very real experiences.
Mhm.
But what this says is, and people who are dealing with that are not in a complaining situation. They are absolutely in a processing and dealing with situation. So I'm talking about, oh, I don't like the weather. Oh, why are people so aggressive in their driving? Oh, how come we always have to walk on the left side of the street when we have an umbrella? Why do we have to wear seatbelts? Right, the kind of moaning that happens around life.
Yeah.
And it may feel like, well, I don't have any control over the weather or the law or, any of that kind of stuff. So when I got really clear, Keith, that the things that we have control over, our own locus of control,
Right.
is our thoughts, our feelings, our words, and our actions. That's it.
I like that you added your feelings and emotions, because I've had conversations with people, and I don't want to go on a tangent here, who have said that we don't have that, but I feel that that would be inaccurate, because if we don't, then we would be responding to things, reacting to things rather than responding to things,
Well,
in very chaotic ways. Go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I would ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation with friends or family, and something has happened and one person has had a reaction and the other person has a completely different feeling or reaction about it? How is that possible?
Because we filter everything through what our experiences and our what we know. Yeah.
And our thoughts and our
Yeah.
beliefs about what we know.
Okay.
So by adjusting our thoughts and beliefs, we can influence our own feelings. And
There you go.
sometimes what happens is the feeling comes instantly, and that's our opportunity to recognize, oh, I'm having a feeling. Does this serve me or not? Can I change my thoughts or beliefs and create a different feeling? So a lot of times when we talk about complaints, or we talk about the burden of extraordinary, or we talk about, do I have the control to change things in my life? A lot of that came about or shifted for me and really changed for me when I started to get clear and embrace, oh, this is within my control, how I feel about the burden of being extraordinary.
Okay.
My parents were giving me a gift. They were encouraging me and validating me and doing all this really beautiful stuff. I'm the one who corrupted it and turned it into a have to and a should and a duty, and I can't just be a regular human being, and I have to go, change the world. Talk
When
about
did you
something to live
what
up to. Eh?
so when did you learn, or what was the process of learning? Not maybe not when specifically, but what was the process of that realization that I have more control than I thought I did? And if that's the
Uh,
way of looking at it.
this is a really long journey for me. I have well over 10,000 hours of personal development in terms of seminars and events that I've gone to, and webinars and speakers that I've heard to, books that I've read. So I started personal development in the 1980s when I was just barely standing. um, and continued that education. So I've explored a lot of different, like, Jungian psychology. I've explored positive psychology. I've looked at how words control our narrative with authors like Umberto Maturana. There's lots of different avenues. And one of my superpowers that I have finally embraced is that I have the ability to take a whole bunch of different information and synthesize it and simplify it so that other people can access it faster with better results.
Well, what about you?
Well, you know what? Have you ever heard another great question, Keith? Have you ever heard the expression, the cobbler's kid doesn't have any shoes?
No, no, I haven't.
Have you ever heard the expression, you need to eat your own cooking?
No, but the only phrases I typically use is don't count your chickens until they're hatched. And I actually know, because I used to raise chickens, where that phrase comes from.
100%. Well, if you were a child of a craftsperson, and my dad is a woodworker, and you'll notice that I don't have woodworking in my house. But the idea is that if you are a chef, you're less likely to come home and cook food for yourself. If you are a cobbler, the last person that you make shoes for is yourself. If you are extraordinary and have superpowers that you can apply to other people, it is often very challenging to apply those same superpowers to yourself.
Okay.
The privilege of outside perspective is one of the tools that makes being a business coach so powerful. So, where do I go, and what about me? I hire a coach, and I am part of mastermind communities, and I look at other people to help reflect back on me, their perception, so that I can try that on for myself.
And does it work?
Sometimes what becomes available is, at least for me, that what becomes available when I'm in relationship with others, or I'm in conversation with my coach, or I'm in a community of other people, is I get a chance to see myself from the outside, but it doesn't mean I have to agree with their vision of who I am. But I
Right.
get an opportunity to learn more about how I show up for others, and then decide if I want to do that intentionally and continue to do that intentionally, or if I want to shift how I'm showing up in the world for others and for
I
myself.
and I think that's totally valid and very valuable. I've had a conversation before with a good friend of mine, who kind of gave me this perspective on mentoring, because mentoring is a part of a recent book that I wrote. And mentors, and this is how he put it, mentors are not there as reflections, sounding boards. They're there for grounding boards. So you shouldn't go to a mentor and, you know, that mentor is just giving you things that they think you want to hear. They're going to lay it on the table and they're going to say things that you need to hear. Does that reflect with you and your relationships with others in terms of your journey? I know we're
Uh,
going deep here.
and
Where, and I'll rephrase it. Were there times where you needed to hear something, but you didn't want to hear something in terms of your
well,
journey?
I mean, if you're asking me, no, I'm always coachable. If you're asking my coach, she would tell you, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. There are times when there has been things that she felt I needed to hear
Okay.
at a time when I was not actually asking to hear for those. And here's the thing for me around that. I think that there's value in mentors seeing beneath the facade that we kind of bring to the world sometime of, oh, I got it all together and I'm doing fine and I'm like, oh, I got great, check me out. And then they go, yeah, and they can see beneath and listen underneath that. I think that's a really valuable thing to have from a mentor.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
one of the things that I'm committed to in my coaching is to do permission based coaching and mentorship. So I may see an opportunity to offer you something that I really strongly feel that you need, but I'm not just going to give it to you unless it's something that you're ready to experience or hear or will occur for you as support or a catalyst or a motivator. Often in past relationships where I have been the coachee or the mentee, and somebody has just fire hosed their own agenda, I don't feel seen and heard. It may be exactly what I need to hear at the moment, but because my emotional state feels so attacked, I will not be able to receive the message. So there's value there. And I believe that the manner in which that message is offered will really depend on whether or not the person who needs to hear it actually hears it.
Can I just switch real quick about your transformation story?
Yeah.
So you went after it. You literally told me, um, personal professional development was your strategy to figure things out. Mastermind classes, coaching for yourself, very well read, sought
Personal
after.
development seminars, all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
sought.
Yeah.
So through that journey, what have you become? Where are you? Who are you?
So through that journey, Keith, I explored multiple different iterations of what could it look like for me to be fully self-expressed in the world and living into that full potential of extraordinary. What could it look like?
Right.
And maybe it's using my math brain to be an accountant. So I did that for a while, and I worked as an accountant, and I did the corporate thing. And then I thought, well, maybe it's using my creative brain a little bit differently. And I started to work in marketing and advertising and really understand how to support other people's messages in a creative way and find solutions. And then I thought, you know what I really want to do? Bottom line, I just want to get paid to travel the world. Like,
Oh, okay.
right? Like, what I really want is I just want to get paid to travel all over the world. So I did that.
Oh,
I
wait, what?
designed and built a business that got me paid to travel around the world
You are the
because I
smartest
decided that was what
person.
I wanted.
If you did that, you are the smartest person in the world because you created your own reality.
I 100% did. I created an opportunity to get what I declared I wanted for myself since I'm so extraordinary and I have this locus of control and I only complain about things that I can change. So, what do I actually want for myself? And I want to travel around the world. I want to get paid. I want to do something creative. I want to be the expert and be at the front of the room and have everybody go, ooh, ah, or is the best. I want applause. I want to have really great life experiences. I want to be able to do something tangible that I can share with other people. Oh, I know. I'm going to be a professional photographer and I'm going to lead photography workshops throughout Italy and Mexico and other places of the world. How's that sound like for a fun job? So, for the last 2 decades, I was an international award winning professional photographer.
You are the smartest person in the world. If you could have created that reality and you did it,
And I did it. And I made enough
congratulations.
money to live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. I worked maybe 30 hours a week, and I had lots of money and time to hang out with my friends and family. And I retired that business in 2015.
Okay. So that's the story. That's it. That's
But
your
that's it.
trans
And now I do
that's your
nothing. No.
transformation
Oh,
story.
and so the
Well,
reason I'm
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And so again, it was that idea that we don't have to live our life by default. We can design our own life with intention. And what came up for me after doing this work for a long time was I actually got tired of traveling on somebody else's itinerary. And I wanted my own freedom to just do whatever I wanted when I traveled. Because the thing about how I set up my life was somebody else was paying me. I had some obligations to earn that money.
Okay.
Yes.
So one more caveat to get over was live on somebody else's dime, but under your control.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that. Is that a conversation for another show?
Well, it's the really quick way to just kind of put an end cap on my journey and let you know where I am today,
Okay.
which is not only did I want to get paid to live my life however I wanted and have autonomy and freedom, but I also wanted to make a bigger difference in the lives of others.
Okay.
And it was
What is
breaking my heart to see how many other photographers and creative people were not living the life of their dreams,
hmm.
were not having the extraordinary successes that I had experienced. And I retired my camera in favor of supporting other creative freelancers to earn more, to stress less, and to grow their business with confidence. And so, where I am now is I am a business coach and the founder of an online learning academy where I get to work with amazing creative people who are up to really cool things, who come to me stuck in a reality that maybe wasn't of their own creation. Maybe it was the message they heard from their family, and maybe they didn't get a burden of extraordinary, but a burden of you have to work a 9 to 5, or you can't be creative and make money, or whatever else was the story that they were told.
Right.
And I get to help them walk that journey of transformation and start to design their life with intention and start to build their dreams into reality. And that, my friend, is so fulfilling.
And the topic of another conversation for another time. With the time
Uh-huh.
that we have left today, and I do want to thank you for sharing your impact story, but I want to go back to one piece because I want you to leave it with those who are watching and listening. You mentioned, and I asked you to kind of do an overview of your transformation journey. And I love the word journey because I use it a lot in my own talks. I want to know, and this is just between you and me and those who are listening, what was the pivot moment? What was that moment that you actually realized that you had control, that
Hmm.
you had control, and not somebody else or that ideal. And if you, and I'm not looking for a time, I'm looking for your
Yeah.
essence. What were you experiencing when that light came on?
Well, I don't know that it was a singular flip of the switch.
It doesn't have to be, but people want to know, they want to
Yeah.
experience the same thing because that's when they
Yeah.
know that, damn, I've got control and not somebody
Hmm.
else.
That clarity is fleeting for me.
Okay.
So I just really want people to know that it's not like something that you get and then like that's it, you're 100% confident, 100% clear, I've got control, I'm doing my life. It feels like an ongoing conversation, but
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
moments that it happens are usually when I am in the darkest places
And that's
and
okay.
when I really have to get real with myself of this situation that is causing me to bawl my eyes out and question everything and sit in uncertainty. Where is my locus of control in it? And from that moment, it helps me to start unraveling the thread of, okay, is there anything that I can think differently that would change this for me? Is there anything that I could say that would change this? Is there any? So looking at those four qualities of locus of control, just on the most minute level, to start untangling and building back the journey towards that feeling of clarity and confidence and, oh yeah, I have control over my life. It is a process. It is not a switch for me.
It's okay. Perfect. There's no better way of ending this conversation than to ask you one more question. Will you come back and talk about your coaching job, your role as a coach on my
Absolutely.
other show, Coach's Corner?
Happy to come back and talk about that. I would like to say one last thing, which is a phrase that I use all the time, which gives me a lot of grace and keeps me going towards transformation, which is we are all just practicing our mastery and mastering our practice. It is a
Perfect.
process.
Absolutely. Perfect. For those of you who are watching and listening, this has been another edition of the Question Guy podcast. Aura McKay, thank you for this conversation. For the rest of you, I'll see you next time. Take care.